Yeah.
Forget the rest.
Are y'all feeling that?
You're rocking with the best radio station on the planet. SDM Live Unplugged.
What up, y'all? This is the Fourth Letter Radio. This is Rhythm Day Trois. We're here in Detroit with my crew, the Detroit Connect Society, and we have a guest today, Tanisha Wyndham. Hello.
Hello.
How's everybody doing?
We're good.
Good. Well, we are on sdmlive.com Saturday at 5 p.m. each week, and we have interesting topics that we bring to the table. It's not the red table, but it's the connect table, so we do our thing. Today's topic is a serious topic. It may, just as a warning and a disclaimer, it may trigger you. You also may need to put some earphones on the youngins because I don't know if we're going to use like words, like you have like, you know how we make up words and then we got the real words. So, but I don't know if we're going to need tissues or if we're going to need a swear jar or what we're doing. But we have all been cooped up over the last year with the pandemic. It has been harsh. It's been rough. We may have been cooped up with people that we normally aren't cooped up with, and they're our significant other. So they did say that, just to put some facts down on the table, they did say that there was a high number of domestic violence in the city of Detroit, Metro Detroit, due to COVID, because people were spending more time with each other than they normally do, right? And overall, Detroit is kind of known. I'm gonna tell you because I was down in Georgia for a couple years. So when you tell them that they're from Detroit, they're like, "Oh, that's where they be putting those people, and they throw you in the trunk." And I say, "Yeah, on the east side." They do.
Stop talking about the east side.
Are you east sider?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're all over. Is Highland Park east side? I don't know.
I mean, I was born and raised
Actually,
east side.
west. Anything west of Woodward is west side.
Right.
Anything east of Woodward is east side.
But Highland Park is on
like
both
right
sides.
in the middle, though.
There's some portions on the east and some on the west.
Okay. Well, Tanisha Wyndham is the executive director of My Sister's Keeper.
I'm actually the founding president.
Oh,
and
excuse
CEO.
me. Excuse me. Blah. She is the founding president. Tell us again your title, please.
Founding president and CEO.
That's right. Founding president and CEO. And I've had the pleasure of actually coming over to the school that she was partnering with. So she has some real partnerships. I have seen her receive her grants and implement and install her grants, like use them, get them out there, following protocol. You know, some of these grants, you have to make sure that you're posting their logos and letting people know that you have a partnership. And she's always sending me my emails, letting me know that she's part of that. And then being with a real school with some real children, she has asked me to come over and work with the young girls, the mentoring. But above that, she also is a person that I would think of when I was doing my rooming houses for women who were victims of domestic violence, because you also had some some referrals for that and some interest in that, and have done some work there. So part of and we'll go around the table because our topic today is about domestic violence and intergenerational trauma. And we're talking about this because it has been affecting my life since I was born. I happen to be born into a family of very beautiful women who are quite vicious and, half French, half black, Portuguese and African, and doing all this. But the manipulation and the fierceness, not the fearlessness, but the fierceness and the viciousness for women who are beautiful. I don't know if there's women that aren't beautiful that are out here slanging and acting like monsters, but I do know in my family, I've just witnessed, since I can remember, the women being like really, really super mean girl and nasty to each other. And I'd like to find out who all have had that experience, what I've done in academia, part of me leaving Africa was for me to come out of that mindset, because I used to grow up doing a lot of fighting, a lot of bullying, and I grew up that way in Highland Park to protect myself, because I did get one of my braids cut. So I had a long braid and like a little short braid right here. Somebody had, they had got together and they cut my braid. And so after that, I was just like, okay, I'm not getting my hair cut no more in school. I'm just sitting there minding my business. But what I found is that I found a citation, some actual research that women who fight a lot are victims of domestic violence. And so it's coming full circle. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about displaced aggression, where you have aggression towards someone who is treating you bad, and then you're putting it off on people who aren't treating you bad. And that happens a lot, even in male and female relationships, with as much weight and disappointment. And, when you are excluded as a black male, and then some of that, where are you going to dissipate that energy but to, your family and to other people? Because you can't retaliate against the oppression. I mean, that's just, I don't know how many can, but the thoughts, come into your mind, like, how can I, where can I use this energy when it's just coming at me from all these different places, even as a black male. So now it's coming full circle, because now you have your significant other and the other people in your family who are getting abused. And then, of course, you are birthing abusers. So we just need to kind of talk about it a little bit. If you don't mind, Tanisha, jump right on in, share your story as much as you'd like to share. I'm just letting people know as a disclaimer that we're going to put everything on the table. We have people here who have had some experiences of dysfunction, and those who haven't. And so, of course, they're going to have a different perspective on life, but share as much as you'd like to.
Of course. I have experienced domestic violence, personally, childhood trauma, interpersonal relationship trauma, and even working with the young ladies in my Sister's Keeper, everything from molestation to rape, to I saw my mother's boyfriend just took a plug out of her. And I'm like, okay, he bit her. Yes, I just witnessed this yesterday, and so I can speak from many perspectives, even as a master's level counselor. Speak to trauma, and what we've learned is that hurting people basically hurt people, and I feel that a lot of the abuse is steeped in insecurity and not knowing who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times not knowing who you are, even when you have experienced trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two roads you could take.
Okay.
Either you can use this trauma in a positive way, or this trauma can have a negative effect on you. And for me, that was something that I didn't realize until later on in life. And so in my early years, my mother and father divorced when I was 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother moved in her boyfriend when I was 5 years old.
Okay.
And from 5 years old until my adult years, I witnessed domestic violence. I witnessed my stepfather beating my mother. Mm-hmm. There were times when we had to leave the house and go spend a night somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And my mother even left her home, mm-hmm. totally abandoned her home and left her husband there and bought another house, mm-hmm. until he decided to leave and she could come back. And this happened, escalating up to the point where my stepfather attacked my mother, mm-hmm. and ended up having to go to prison, mm-hmm. for 7 years for spousal abuse.
Wow.
And so I have also experienced abuse from my stepfather myself, physical and sexual, because he came into my room attempting to have sex with me. As a teenager, I woke up with my light on in my bedroom, and he's standing there talking about the sexual fantasies that he had
How old were you?
of me. I was in high school,
Okay.
and I was very negatively impacted by that. I spent many years on a downward spiral. I spent many years on a self-destructive path. I spent many years depressed. I would sit in my bathroom on the floor and cry for hours and hours, and I would say, you know, if I had to describe that pain, it felt like somebody had a dagger in my heart. My heart, I would experience physical pain.
From the emotional pain.
From the trauma. And a lot of people really do not understand the depths and the gravity of trauma. You know, I said earlier before we began taping that, oh, I'm healed. But I honestly, I don't believe that you ever get over trauma. When I say I'm healed, that means I can now manage it and deal with it in a positive way. I can now take what happened to me, which was evil, and I can now use it for good. It means that I have forgiven my stepfather, I have forgiven my mother. As a matter of fact, now we work together. There were many years I did not speak to my mother. I did not go to my mother's house. I referred to my mother to my siblings as your mother. And now, could you actually believe that now?
Yeah, I've
You
heard
can't
worse
believe
than that.
now. You can't believe that now because we have worked through the hurt.
Oh, no, I've seen you and your mother. I've come to the birthday parties, and they're beautiful together now.
We have
Absolutely.
forgiven one another, and I realized, hey, I wouldn't want my children to hold my past mistakes over me for the rest of my life. That's not fair. It's not fair, especially when you have said, okay, I own it. I made these mistakes. I wish I'd have done something different, but I can't go back and do those things. Let's start here and let's start now. But what I do with my Sister's Keepers is really the basis of turning
pain.
Turning pain into purpose, and what the devil meant for evil to good.
Right.
Because I've been hurt, because I've been lost, because I've been abused, because I've been battered and abused, I can identify with young ladies who are experiencing what I experienced. I stopped going to school in 12th grade because I was depressed. I was literally dysfunctional. I was functionally impaired because of the trauma. And like I said, it took me many years. A lot of that is attributed to my relationship with God and getting in the Word. And like I said, knowing who I am. Knowing who I am, the power I possess, my gifts, my talents, my intellect, what all I could do that would basically help to heal me as I heal others. So as I heal others, as I began to help others, I was helping myself. And the more I did that, the more empowered I became over my pain and over the situation. And I'm thankful that when people meet me, they can't see that, oh, all of this happened to me. And more that I can't even begin to tell
You
it
don't
all.
look like what you've been through, and I know you've heard that before.
Church up in here, but I can't even tell it all. Trust me, everything that I've been through, and thank God I don't look like what I've been through. But I can't speak to trauma. I can speak to how some things need to change in your mind as far as your perspective, how you're thinking about what happened to you. Because I used to, as I said, sit on the bathroom floor, and what I was doing is called rumination. So I would keep rehearsing over and over and over again
What happened?
every hurtful thing that ever happened to me, every harmful word that had ever happened to me. And so what that does is it keeps it afresh.
It's like the Groundhog Day. I have a family member who didn't like something that happened that needed to happen, and they didn't like that it happened. And I happen to be the authority over that happen, and I'm the one that made it happen. And so it kind of happened like in 2016. And since that time, I'm, giving money, giving support, being very supportive, but as soon as they don't like something, they revert back to that time.
It's a trigger.
And it's a ground. I'm like, I thought I just gave you $3,500. What is happening right now? But as soon as it's a trigger. It's some little trigger in there. Or, we were just sitting on the couch watching a movie. What happened? But they're just kind of getting triggered right back to that Groundhog Day, or the Groundhog Day is happening. And it's like, you have not learned how to process this energy. Because, of course, if I were to list everything that has happened to me and who I'm not blaming for it, it's like the blame game, when people are constantly blaming people. So we're going to go to our next guest, and we also have, thank you so much for that. We had, yes, beautiful. And just to be able to share lets you know that someone is healed, and it helps you, it gives you the courage, and it gives you the motivation and the hope that you can share some of the things that you've been through, and to have a better understanding from it, because you want to be in that place where you're a professional, successful businesswoman, with, being able to raise her children and just find that success. And you wonder, how did they get from there? Because that shame can really, really put you in a place, which I love your circle of friends and how you're picking people to be around you to motivate you.
Yes.
So, Suzanne, share with us.
So I can definitely relate to traumas from early on. My mom was in an abusive relationship with my father. He committed suicide 5 years ago, so that kind of made me think of everything in my life a different way, and kind of reflecting to the generational curses that might have been on my life. And I've had a lot of soul searching with that, but I've experienced gang rape and just different abusive relationships, and it all stems back to your childhood. So it's like a form of a repetitive cycle that it needed to be broken. So I know the things that I've been through in my life, because it skipped a generation of my father taking his life, it jumped to me. So I've been in battle since I was like 15 years old. So I've had to really soul search the last couple of years to get to a place where I can talk about it even, and it's healing to other people. But for me, raised in an abusive environment or dysfunctional, I thought it was normal. So, there's things in your adult life when you start having children, you realize, hey, that's not normal,
Right.
So it took me a lot of time to even really be able to want to talk about it, because I was like, I'm just like everybody else, other people went through a lot worse. So
And these are like
these
are like our most beautiful, most talented women out here, and look at their stories. I mean, that has to be a motivation for people out there to know that you are going to get to where you want to be, even though you don't feel as though you'll be there. And also do everything that you can to fight the monster, to be that person that that hurt you, and just don't be that person.
Exactly.
And so, Felton, what's going on? The male perspective is on the table.
So mine is I grew up in a very negative masculine space, and I know it's an overly used term, but I can literally go back and I can say every influential male in my family I seen put hands on a woman. My father, my stepfather, my grandfather. I mean, I can even go as far as some, not advice, but my dad would tell me, because his grandfather was a pimp, don't hit him in the face, hit him in the head. You know, it won't show scars. And even my grandfather on my mother's side, his father was a pimp. So he resented his dad because he would beat his mother, like beat her, not beat her like just hit her. He would beat her bloody. So, I mean, I seen this. Like she said, it was normal. And my parents were 16 years older than me. So I seen that trait come out in my dad in his mid-20s. You know, I can go back and see him, you know, hitting his girlfriend upside the head with a telephone. I seen my mother stab my brother's dad in the chest with a butcher knife, you know, because they were really fighting. You know, I seen this as a child, and it was like, it was a lot of just chaos all the time, to the point where it's like, I told myself as a kid, I would never do that, because it never looked like anything a man was supposed to do. It never.
So be honest, you ain't never choked nobody out.
No, I'll tell you, and I'll be honest with you. I was in a situation with a young lady I was dealing with in 2019, and she was like very physical. Something don't go her way, she ready to do something. One time she bleached my clothes. Ooh. You know, it was material. I kept messing with her. I shouldn't have. And then it came to a point. She wouldn't leave my house. We got into it. She wouldn't leave, and I said, "Hey, you gotta leave," you know. And she swung on me. She knocked my glasses clean off my face, you know. No, it's okay. No, bring light. But you know what? In that situation, I did feel something, but I didn't revert to violence because you know, 5 foot tall woman. You know,
right.
It's not a threat. Truth be told, I must be a little crazy too, because I was laughing the whole time. I think that's probably why I got hit. So, you know, I called the police. You know, they wanted to take her to jail. They said you hit her first, but I said, you know, even yet, still, I'm like, nah, man. She's a coach. She was a coach for Southfield High School. She was a cheerleading coach. So it was just
Shut your mouth.
Wow.
I don't know if she still. This was a couple years ago, but they really wanted to take her to jail. Like, you told me, you know, she did this. She hit, because if you hit someone first and you call the police, they're going to jail. Whoever hit first. So I'm like, nah, man. You know, it's okay. I just wanted her to leave. I lied. He going hard. And I said, you know what, officer, if you really wanted to take somebody to jail, you would have took him, you know. But it was just a moment. I never dealt with that with any relationship I ever had. And, you know, I was proud of myself because I got those demons in me. You know, I felt them. I felt the
Remember we talked about it? We were talking about it before we started.
Yeah.
That people, I believe, leave God and go to this space where God is not. And you see them, they got that glaze over their eyeball, their eyes, and they're just kind of going off. And you're trying to bring them back down, like they're about to burn the house down, they're about to hurt somebody. And I said, you know, have you ever been there before? Because all of us, you know, you get heated, your heart starts pumping, you know. And I think it's just a space where God is not, because you're not being logical, you're not being reasonable. You have car accidents, you have, you know,
Anything.
tables is
Bad
flipped
stuff
over.
is
Just
happening.
some bad stuff happens to you in that space. And I just think it's where God is not.
Yeah.
And it's that space. And then when people are able to snap themselves out of it, I think that's that bipolar space, is where you go there and then you're back, you know, and you bring yourself back. But when you hit that 100 is where I think the coping skills that we need to, you know, we need to find ways of coping.
And just character, too, because I think my character really shine, because when I say I seen this my entire life, I've seen my granddad hit his lady. My grandmother tell me stories about my granddad jumping on her. Like, this is not one generation. This is not 2 generations. This is 4 or 5 generations.
Okay.
Where this is the norm. Even where, you know, people are, my dad giving me instructions on, you know, and I just never thought that was what men do. You know, it's all out of emotion. It's all out of no check and no love. And I feel like if you have love for someone, love will not let you go to that limit, that threshold, because it's not love.
And at what age do you realize that the the person who does care for you and does love you will not put their hands on you.
Yeah.
So like I never got a spanking from my dad. So when I would, but he also kind of built me like a Cadillac. So I'm like tough. So, but when you're dealing with alpha males and you're tough like that, they want to break you down. Some, and then you'll have those that will never put their hands on you, and you'll have to get to a place in your life where you know the difference.
Oh, I think I'm pretty much there because it's just, I mean, I recognize it as a child. This is not right, and then it was. I could see the symptoms. I see how it started. It all started from inability to control anger, and I'm
Yes.
like, I'm
And to defuse and to
Yes.
de-escalate.
Yes.
So control anger, diffuse, and de-escalate.
Yeah. And I never had a problem. Like since a child, like I'm really aware of my emotions. And
God bless you. That you are not. Remember, we said there's a T there. You got the people on this side and the people on that side. Those who are taking their pain and inflicting pain on others, and those who are taking their pain and turning it into purpose and power.
Or
All
one
right.
of the
With-
responses,
Yes.
I think that we were talking about before is you can use it in a negative direction or you can use it in a positive direction. And so some people who have been exposed to domestic violence, the cycle will continue.
Yes.
Well, others will say, okay, it stops here with
Yeah.
me. And so I think that was kind of my response because even to this day, I'm like, no, I'm not going to be that woman. I'm not going to have that experience. I won't have that experience. My children won't have that experience of witnessing me be abused by a man. So, it's just not happening.
God bless you. Like in my family, my mom checked out when I was 4 from not abuse from my dad. He picked up the pieces, but the abuse from her family. Her mom, who was, man, she was Jean on the east side, and everybody knew her. But just, I'm gonna tell you, vulgar, talking, cussing people out, just being vicious, beautiful, but just being vicious. And my mom didn't raise us from that. She checked out. That was it when I was 4. That was the end of that motherhood there. And some of us are able to cope, and then some of us aren't, unfortunately. But the family, they have affected some family members, and some family members have been able to turn their pain into power. Dee Dee, so you had a different perspective because you said that your parents made sure that you did not grow up in that environment.
Right. I definitely had a praying and protective mom.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, you can't go here, you can't go here, you can't go here.
Mm-hmm.
And as a child, it's like, why am I being held hostage in the house, right? And you don't understand why you can't go certain places or what she's actually protecting you from. And through that, I definitely understand now, right?
Yeah.
So of her being the way that she was, being protective and keeping us from various places, it allowed me to not encounter any of those things.
Right. And now you will not repeat it. So you'll have a nice, but what would be really interesting is how you pick the people that you're going to be life partners with so that you don't encounter it.
Right. And even
That's really important.
through now, it's like,
So Taji, we got our eye on you. Okay. So you're not gonna
Don't
bring
gotta
all
worry
that.
about
We
him
ain't
'cause
gang
he's not
banging over
that.
there.
he's definitely not that, because if he was, I would not have married the man.
Of course not. Taji, so you said that you have had. Tell us a little bit. What do you want to share?
Yeah, my experience has been kind of maybe unpopular, a little bit different. It's been like the converse. Like my mom's been very, very supportive of me like my entire life. I think she's protected me from a whole lot. grew up without a real father figure for some years in my early age. So I kind of partially learned what being a man was from what my dad didn't do or what I didn't see him. 'Cause he was, I had to kind of like do the opposite of that. But I've had other figures around, and I got to a point where I was older, like around high school age or so, and I think my mom got just to the point where she couldn't really, I was getting into adolescence, and there was just a point of development where she couldn't really take me any further. And so she really needed to put me around a group of, upstanding, well-to-do brothers that could really kind of get me together, right?
Wow. Well, thank God for them. Where they at? I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, because I just love those types of villages and communities that allow men to do that without judgment and without persecution. Because, like I said, the women can be vicious, and just the thought of their man helping a young man that's not his child, of course they're gonna think about the mother and that relationship. So thank God that they lived in a space that allowed them to nurture you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is intention as well. Like, I've had some figures, father figures, that they would try to discipline, but their intentions, you can read the intentions behind what they're doing. And then other father figures were like, the actual, what they were doing was more strenuous or more demanding physically. But you're like, wow, I can see on the other side of this, like you're explaining like why I'm increasing my endurance, or why I'm pushing my limits, or why I'm disciplining my body and my mind and controlling my mind and controlling my urges, because that's what manhood is. That's what, when you go out into the world, that's what is expected of you. And so for me growing up, trauma and abuse, I don't necessarily like to wear that word. I don't like to come from that space, but abuse is just abnormal use, so that makes sense. But my experiences largely came from relationships that I've been in, opposite sex, gender, and some of the trauma that
the Detroit women was trying to whoop you on your butt, wasn't they? They be out
trying to whoop mine.
Yeah. I mean, I love my sisters like so much.
He likes some of it.
But no, I think largely some of them have come from backgrounds where they have been abused, and so they felt like abusing was a way to show love, or whether it's physical or verbal or any of that stuff. And I'm just like, that's not my thing.
Is that the word when you say you emasculate men? Is that the word? They really think that is part of their job, and that they're accomplishing something to put you in check and make sure that they know, what you're doing at all times, and controlling you, and that is a badge. And I'm not going to just say it's Detroit women or even just Black women, but it's a badge to emasculate the men. And my son has always complained, as far as his mental health, is the way that the women in my family treat each other. And that's one of his biggest issues. It's just the constant. There's too many women. We just really don't have any males in our family. But they're all very strong, very beautiful, but they can be ferocious. And what they'll do is they trample on the men to vie for a position, or, an ego and all of this. And they're trampling on the men. You could probably imagine this when there isn't a male presence there to balance it all out. So you have all these women. What I found is that with one of my family members, the constant going back and forth with her male significant other, of the bitches and the hoes, and you ain't shit, and you're doing this all day. Then when you go talk to someone else That's how you talk to other people because you're doing this all day. You can even tell, like when you call them, you can tell they just got out of a fresh argument because they're, you know, it's just like, what is going on over there? But it just becomes normal behavior, and that's that displaced aggression because you got all of this aggression towards this person. You guys are battling it, and I'm just like, wow, I don't even know what my ears just heard. But the protection of our women is just really important. I think a lot of it, the non-protection comes in when women, and they'll tell you, well, I was the daddy, so on Father's Day, I want a gift because I've been mama and daddy. And you'll never hear me say that because I've never been daddy. I failed. I have failed as a father, okay? I'm just the worst daddy out here, I'm going to tell you. So you'll never hear me with a badge saying that, you know, because what ends up happening is what you're telling me is that you did have to beast up on your kids. And you had to be a male, and you had, because I can just imagine the role that you're playing. I would say that you're either doing that or either one, there's no win-win because that child is either going to have the absent parent and they're going to have problems from that, or they're going to have that bestiality that the women, and then now you're doing it with everyone. Because the relationships that you have, that, you know, they're bleeding into other relationships. So you can tell when somebody is heated from a conversation, and you know that you're not even a person to have a heated conversation with them. But now it's spilling. You're like, you know, let me call you back because I can tell that you're going back and forth with someone. But, and then people are crying out for help also because they are, they're getting degraded. And then with the men, because the women are so aggressive, they're getting abused and they're getting emasculated. And a lot of it, I think, is back to some of the culture that we have on the plantation. You have people who feel, especially with the black women, when you're given more power, more money, and all of the responsibility, you feel like the new slave owner. So you need to know, like, what your slave is doing all the time. But then the guy, he wants to be like, hold up, wait a minute. So a lot of that is about those relationships and the need to put a woman down based on that mainstream culture. Like, I need to, even though I was with you yesterday, today you're dirt. And then I'll call you tomorrow. I'll call you in 2 days. And you won't be dirt. But today you're dirt because you need to be dirt so that I can save this relationship over here. That right there makes women bleach the clothes and, you know, do all of that. That's where the violence comes from.
You know what? I'm going to say, because you are what you attract. And I can say this. I have been married before. I'm divorced. I never in my life, I always attract very feminine women who are like aliens in my generation because, you know, they didn't grow up like that. I really study, you know, and observe what I do and who I deal with because they have very headstrong mothers, as well as my mama is the toughest crybaby I know. So I want to say, you know, I never attracted that, but then I had to look at the part I played in that situation because I'm very gentle. So you can snap at me, female, and I don't, you know, I'm not going to give in. I'm going to talk to you calmly, you know, just because I know how to socialize. So in that situation, it was a little different. But then I had to go back and think about her childhood. You know, she grew up in Highland Park.
Uh-oh.
She's a little, and I'm going to tell you this. It's funny that it connects, but, you know, she's of a darker complexion. So I noticed, and it's terrible in our community. Whether you're on the light spectrum or you're on the darker spectrum, you have a different level of aggression because you had to grow up defending yourself. Oh, you dark skin, you light skin, you think you better than everybody. Oh, you dark skin, you black, you ain't nothing. So it was that, and then it was also me, because I ain't gonna lie, I was playing around. It was like I was out of a divorce. I'm doing my thing, but I'm laying it on thick at the same time. So I'm very charming. I'm showing her I'm doing things no other guys doing before.
Is this a dating app?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is something, and I had to look at this.
Call dateme.com.
No. It was.
I saw that plug.
No. And I go back to my male influencers. Everybody's charming. Everybody can talk, and it's like it was I want to say not trauma, but it was something I had to look at myself and say, I don't have to do that. I don't have to be like, I know this is my father, this is my grandfather. Everybody's smooth. Everybody's, very gentle, caring. But at the same time, I had to look at myself and turn the mirror and say, that's manipulative, and I'm not going to say I've deserved to get punched on or my clothes bleached, but I played a part.
From not just telling it, like it is and being honest, because you'd be surprised how many women will digest the information that you give them.
No, I never had a problem with that. I'm too honest. I'm very blunt. I think with that, it doesn't matter what you say. I learned this from dealing with women. It doesn't matter what you say. If you have qualities that they like, that's in the garbage, because you told me one thing.
They're like, come here.
And it was manipulation on my part, because I told them one thing, but I had to learn to myself. I'm naturally a husband. I don't know how to casually date. I don't know how to not do too much, because it's just, it flows from me, and I had to learn how to fall back and just not really date like I was. So, yeah.
They didn't even let you date, because then they're just already telling everybody and calling their mama, I think I met my husband, and just not allowing you to get to know people. But over in Africa, they throw you out there like fresh bait and like, come on, who wants to? But what they look at is what you're able to do, because what they don't want to do in these older cultures is they don't want heartbroken women, and they don't want single women, and they don't want children being raised without fathers. And so in our culture, they condone those things for the sake of a woman's ego. So they'll go ahead and condone divorce and single motherhood, and children being raised by a father, because a man like you is only supposed to be providing for one family, even though he can have more than one. He's only supposed to be providing for one. So now you'll have women and children who are being abandoned for the sake of that one family. And that's what they don't want. So there really is not a win-win situation. They're looking for a win, and there's no win. Because you're either going to have abandoned women and children, or you're going to have a woman's ego that's intact, and she's able to be the Queen Mary and to constantly make you profess to the village that there's only one that you love, okay? You can't love another other than me. And you have to do it on a daily basis. Like, they wake up in the morning, I'm more the fairest of them all, I'm the only one that you love. And you have to just constantly do this every single day. But what that does in the man's mind, because men and women are different, he's saying, oh, so that means that I have to abandon this one that needs me. That's the way that they see it. Because it's just not the same. It's not the same relationship. It's not the same realm. You have a man who is a provider and who is a protector and who's going to make sure that the children are straight. And that's what you have. And so the man is thinking, you want me to take that from this home for your home. So I'm going to stop being with this woman and her children so I can be with you and your children. And in these older cultures, they don't want the women to be heartbroken. So you're either going to have one or the other, and they're both going to be difficult. You're not going to have a situation where it's not difficult, and you think that you're winning, but there is no win. There's no one win where everyone is going to be happy. So you have to just look at it. It isn't, you only can provide for one. What they're saying is provide for as many as you are loving. provide for them. That's all they're asking you to do.
I think that's something that's kind of, I guess, culturally here. Like, I think the reason why we get in relationships isn't for that kind of pragmatic, future generation build. It's more like, I just want to feel good right now. I just want to make sure I'm being doted over. And so the reason that we get into relationships, I think, is sometimes shattered when that bumps up against what the actual reality of relationships are. And, leads to some of that additional trauma, right? Because there's a large amount of single mothers in this community, and if we look at who they're raising, another generation of whether these young boys or young girls,
Right.
and I believe that relationships require balance. I think they were designed to have two parents, balance households, and so my question is only like, well, what's missing, for that?
Well, I mean, what's interesting is when you talk about American culture, they want to say, well, if we start doing this, this, and this in that manner, then we're doing something different. And so the facts are is that you're not doing anything different, because the men do have these relationships, and they do have the multiple children, and they do have the multiple households. They're just not managing them because you don't allow them to. But it's not like they're not there. It's not like they don't. I mean, just look around. It's happening. And it is there, but it's the way that they're managing it that's different. I think that the permission, when you give a man permission or give a person permission, but in this traditional way, when you give them permission, I think it takes away from the excitement of not having permission. So now you have to say, oh, okay, well, I got permission. Oh, I get to do it.
Like a little kid. Like a little kid who can't do what he wanted to do.
Right. But now when you can do what you want to do, guess what? You get to decide what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. But I've been on both sides of the coin with that. So not saying too much, but that was traumatic as well, because, being I was a little younger, and I was on that, I had permission to do what I want to do. It really made a man out me, because I didn't know how to properly, how can I say this? How to properly manage a situation like that, because I'm used to, what you've been grown up and raised, dysfunction and trauma. So when you get in a situation like that, if there are things that are required of you, that if you want to manage it properly, and if you don't have the lessons or the advice for that, you're going to fail miserably.
Yeah, you're going to fail miserably. And you're saying that you received the permission to do something, or what I'm assuming is you're saying that you were in a relationship and then you had the permission to be in another relationship. But I think that in this society, your money and your time and the rest of your life and your grandchildren are going to still be sectioned off for a particular family, but your personal commitment to that family, because it will be lost, but your money will still be there, right? And you're going to still have grandchildren with those people, and so you're still a family. And sometimes you have to pay alimony. And when a child has to go to the doctor, you still have to raise those children and be a part of that family. Then you have that extended family that you may have had relationships with. So the way that other people outside this country look at it is that you're still family, right? And so you just needed that one little piece there, because what ends up happening is you're going to have other people that will come into the situation that will leave their mother of their children and their children to come and be a part of your family that you started.
Right.
And that's what they don't want. So when you look at the bigger picture, your money and your commitment and your life and your, your legacy is still with that family. It's just, now you're just kind of dissipated. So it's more than one way to do something.
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, everything stems back to purpose, even mate selection. And so if as a man, It's going to propel your purpose for you to have 10 wives and 10 families. Hey, go for it. For me, as a single mother, it's been hard to manage one household, one family, building wealth, starting businesses, and leaving a legacy for one family is more than enough for me. And so I can't speak for men. I can't speak for women who decide that this is something that is purposeful for them. But as for me, it's not in keeping with my purpose and where I see my future, what I would like to see for future generations. And I believe that it does not strengthen us as a people, as a culture. I believe it contributes to the breakdown, to the generational curses, to the traumas that our children are experiencing, our women are experiencing, our men are experiencing. I believe that it emasculates men to allow them to have multiple women, multiple families, and multiple children all over the place, and not focus and concentrate their money, their energy, their time, their resources on a nuclear family. But that's just my own.
We are digressing a little bit.
That's just like my own.
I've been on both sides, so it's not
personal
easy.
tangent.
Whether it's monogamous or
We go like we go. We
We
do.
felt
We're
that.
on.
yeah.
We're
It's
on two
purpose.
different sides of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in defense of the man, for a woman who has multiple children with multiple men, I just can't take that position because I'm doing what she doesn't like, or I've done it. You see, so I just can't take that position. I can't take that position with men to make those statements, to say, you got children all over the place and you're doing all this and you have these multiple relationships. I've done it. So I just, I have children, and if you have not had your children with just one man, you've done it. You've had to. You've had that one, and then you stopped with that one, and then you went with that one, and so I just can't take that position. But let's no, it's not simultaneous.
I like what she said about purpose, because that's like, if it's your purpose, because it's not for everybody.
Right.
Everybody's
Right,
not built
true.
for it.
Yeah.
Everybody's not cut for it. Some people not meant for either one.
I think it's okay. So basically, what we're talking about, and you brought it up. You did this.
I'm sorry.
I was trying not to talk about this. We were talking about polygamy. We end up talking about it all the time, but what we're saying is that the difference between your money, your alimony, and your child support, and your grandchildren and your family, you have to cut yourself off of that to be with another family. And then, but there's a part of you that's still there. And that's the American way, because you have to cut it off and you might not see those children. Okay. And you might not be able to help that parent raise, because then she's going to get a new man to come in. You may not be able to make decisions with that person any longer, even if you wanted to, because now you have a new relationship. Now, and on the other side, what we're saying is people that don't cut it off. And that's it. That's the difference. That's it. You just did not cut off that relationship. You're still doing the same thing, because the money and the commitment and the grandchildren and family, but you just didn't make that break. And so what I'm saying is there are billions of people that just are on this side, and there's billions of people that are on this side. And it's just all about how you're going to do it. For me, I just am, some people would say I'm secure enough where I need to have that break. I'm just saying that I'm secure enough that I don't need it. And if you don't want to break off with someone to be with me, then I would not put that pressure on you, because I don't want a woman to pressure a man to tell him to break from me. Like, I can call my ex-husband right now and be like, I'm away, if I had to. But I wouldn't want him to be with a woman that was like, are you talking to her? And you're looking at the phone to see if I called, and I done gave you twins, and you know what I'm saying? I still got scars from it. I'm like, look. But if I had to, but you just have that kind of relationship. But you'll have some women that will claim on God they can go back to their baby daddy. You know, he still love me. You know, he just called me the other day. But guess what? Your husband is a baby daddy. And you just don't want to hear that a woman is sitting around with her foot up watching Love and Hip Hop saying that about your husband. You want that for you. You want to tell everybody I can call, you know, he love me. He's just trying to do phone sex the other day, girl. Nah. But your husband is a baby daddy. And there is a woman out there that feels the same way. So I wanted to ask you, we go back and forth. Look at that face. I wanted to ask you, I don't want to talk about that again because we're going to bring you back for that so we can go, so we can be rock'em sock'em robots like we used to do back in Highland Park. But I wanted you to tell me, when you said that you can either do negativity or you can do positivity, what are the things that you've done that you can do? Because I think that people just don't know what to do. And you too, because you've done it. Like you don't look like you've been through all of that. You would think that some of the things that you all said, and I haven't even told you the things that I've been through, because it's just, but what can you do to turn the pain into power? Just give us some bullets. We have just a few more seconds, but just take the show out and let people know what they can do to turn their pain into power.
Absolutely. What we're talking about is responses. Your response to trauma is basically a decision. And so when you make a decision that I'm going to respond in a positive way, there's certain things you can do. Of course, counseling is one of those things that you can do. Journaling. Meditation. There are many, many, many meditation videos on YouTube, yoga, there's support groups. There are many things. Prayer, like I said, studying the word, getting around other people with similar experiences, mentorship.
Peer support.
Yeah, mentorship.
Coming on the show and helping us out and telling us what's happening.
Right, what I call bibliotherapy, reading books concerning whatever area of trauma you've experienced, getting in touch with purpose. I can't say purpose enough. Everybody say purpose.
Purpose. Yes. Thank you so much.
When you connect with your purpose, everything can align with that. Like I said, even your May selection, your career. When you connect with your purpose and begin to do what you were born to do, everything connects with that.
Detroit Connect Society.
Yes. And also,
thank y'all. Oh, go ahead.
With Fearless, I have Fearless Girl Boss as well. It's a women's empowerment group. I turn pain into power, and I help other women to do that as well. So a lot of times our stories are affecting us, or we go through it so we can help the others. So there's always a purpose to your pain. You just have to really channel into it.
Detroit Connect Society. We have Tanisha Wyndham of the My Sister's Keeper.
So
she's got her signature salads on Friday and Saturday. You can find her at My Sister's Keeper on Facebook. We have Detroit Connect Society in our crew. So we want to thank y'all for coming out tonight. And again, this is the fourth letter, SDMlive.com. Thank y'all.
Make a move, make it better. Yeah. Forget the rest.
Are y'all feeling better?
You're rocking with the best radio station on the planet. SDM Live Unplugged.